We need boots on the ground. We need to cast this disgusting, subversive political organisation back to the corner where they belong.
Our next speaker is a man many of you know very well. Morgan Jonas, president of the Freedom Party, gained prominence as an independent voice challenging state overreach in corporate media during COVID with his series, The MCJ Report. In 2019, he ran as a candidate for Senate. Riding off the success of his show, which ran over 200 one-hour episodes and attracted a following of hundreds of thousands, in 2022, Morgan formed the Freedom Party of Victoria. The Freedom Party's mission crystallized during the anti-lockdown protests as a party of small government, Australian sovereignty, individual freedoms, and strong family values. The party contested in the 2022 Victorian state election, fielding 4 candidates. Today, with over 2,000 members, Morgan and the Freedom Party are laser-focused on restoring this country to the freedoms that once defined us. Please welcome, everybody, Morgan Jonas.
Why are we here and what are we doing? The name of this evening, as you can see, is Stop the Greens. And we're all here because we recognise that the Greens need to be stopped. So why am I running this campaign? Why is Freedom Party getting behind this? So Freedom Party, for anyone unaware, is a state-based party here in Victoria. We are not contesting in the federal election. But despite that fact, we have 2,000 members, we have a big reach, we've had success, we ran in the state election. 4 of our former state candidates went on to become councillors, one of them became a mayor. And so the federal election rolled around and I'm thinking to myself, what can we do to make a difference? What can we do? And I'm sitting there scratching my head. And then a little advertisement popped up on my social media from Advance Australia with a campaign titled Greens Truth. And I thought to myself, this sounds excellent, Greens Truth. What is this all about? I looked into it, and all this campaign it's something very, very simple. It's all about spreading awareness about the truth of the Greens, okay? Who they truly are, what they truly stand for, and what they would like to see materialise here in our beautiful country. Okay, so this is not a campaign that's designed to defame or slander the Greens in any way, shape or form. It's simply a campaign to expose what they really are. Because believe it or not, studies indicate that to this day, a very substantial number of Greens voters still think that when they cast their vote for the Greens, they're voting to save the trees and the environment. Okay, there is a huge number of casual voters who vote for the Greens as a form of a bit of a protest vote to the major parties. And it can be said with a very high degree of certainty that if these people were to be made aware of the Greens and who they truly are and what they truly do, they would most likely cast their vote for a different party. Now, we are in damage control in this country. We see the trajectory under Anthony Albanese, and we think to ourselves, what on earth would the future look like for our country if on May 3rd it comes to our attention that the government is a Labor-Greens minority government? What exactly would that look like, and what would the implications be? All right, so we're looking at a very real scenario whereby Labor may not win enough seats to take government. And of course, government is formed in the lower house. Now, this is a scenario that I'm setting for you. Maybe the coalition will win, take government, Peter Dutton will become the Prime Minister, which I think would be a better outcome as opposed to Labor, or even worse, a Labor-Greens minority government. But we're going to talk about the scenario where Labor misses out on a majority, which is, by the way, 76 seats out of 151 in the lower house, and would therefore be put in a position to make a deal with the Greens in order to form government. In such an instance, Anthony Albanese would continue as the Prime Minister, but who would the Deputy Prime Minister be? That's the question. So as we see up here on the graphic, Labor missing out on the numbers, let's just say they win 70 seats and the Greens win 6. What type of terms will the Greens put on the table that Anthony Albanese and the Labor Party agree to? Will it be the imposition of a full-fledged inheritance tax? Will it be increasing a tax known as climate reparations, where the Greens want Australians to fork out billions of dollars to foreign countries to repair supposed climate damage that allegedly, according to them, Australian taxpayers are responsible for? Or will we be faced with a scenario where the leader of the Greens, Adam Bandt, sticks his heels in and says, well, we're not signing a deal unless I become the Deputy Prime Minister? And people say that's not possible, but I say there's every chance. And if you've been watching the debates and listening to Anthony Albanese and his commentary in regards to what happens if Labor does not make a majority, his answer is always the same. He says, well, Labor will make a majority and I will be the Prime Minister and we will not do deals with the Greens. That is probably one of the biggest lies, I would say, of the entire Labor campaign, if you ask me. They will absolutely conduct deals with the Greens. So this is just a little slide to show what the deal-making process will probably be like in the event of a Labor-Greens minority government. That's Adam Bandt saying, listen, I'm not signing anything unless you make me the Deputy Prime Minister. And we take all the inheritance and give it to the government and stuff your children and your grandchildren. All right, now we're all here because we recognise that the Greens are toxic to this country and clearly belong in the dustbin of Australian political history. But here are just a few talking points that are all factually correct that you can use to discuss with your friends and family around the dinner table or when you volunteer at a polling booth. So those who cast their votes for the Greens, as I said before, are not voting to save the trees. Here are some policy platforms and positions of the Greens that I'm sure each and every one of us in this room would agree are disastrous and pose an existential threat to our country and way of life. I'm going to read them. So you vote for the Greens, you're voting for bigger government, including the nationalisation of private industries, a typical manoeuvre out of the communist playbook. Higher taxes, of course, including inheritance tax. More censorship, more immigration, and immigration that I dare say would be very problematic to our country, increasing our national security risks. Extreme climate policies, including climate reparations, and maintaining our membership with the Paris Climate Accord, a position that I would very much encourage the Prime Minister Peter Dutton to dump. An agreement that is set to cost Australian taxpayers $5 billion within 3 years, and on top of, and that's not even accounting for the investment that we will require at home for this enormous transition as specified in the Paris Agreement. The Greens support Big Pharma, so for all their talk about fighting back against capitalism and pushing back against the corporations, some of the biggest backers of Big Pharma during the COVID-19 years were the Greens. The only criticism the Greens had in relation to the amount of tax dollars spent importing vaccines and other medical-related expenses was that the government was not going far enough. Okay, so the Greens are supporting Big Pharma. They've proven it in the past, and they have no regard for the bodily autonomy of Australians. Land expropriation, that's right, you may have heard this term being floated around if you follow perhaps politics in South Africa or if you followed the events of the former Rhodesia. So this is, of course, the practice of sectioning off land. In this instance, we're talking about Crown land and allowing certain sections of society to access the land and to enjoy it whilst blocking other sections of society and other demographics out. Okay, you all know exactly what I'm talking about. We don't want a divided country. This is why we rejected the voice. We do not need division between us and our Indigenous brothers and sisters. This land needs to be ours to share for everyone. And these types of policies that say, well, Group A can use this land because they may have a certain racial background, but Group B can't. This is a level of divisiveness that we have to fight against at all costs. It's not good for anyone in this room, and I do not believe it's good for our Indigenous community. Erosion of private property rights. This is no secret. The Greens, of course, seeking to control how private property owners manage their property and where they buy, how they buy, and what they can do on their own land. Radical gender indoctrination. Okay, so the Greens, of course, are critical of Labor for not going far enough when it comes to our gender ideology laws. Victoria is a prime example where children of any age can be deemed a mature minor by the government and considered to have the mental capacity to make decisions about permanent body-altering gender therapy drugs without their parents' consent. The Greens wanting to take such policies all the way to include surgeries that cannot be reversed. So putting the Greens last is also a matter of protecting Australian children. The Greens stand for late-term abortion. So any time, any place, it could be the day of a birth, they believe that an abortion should take place at any time, regardless of what term or how late that it is, okay? So they may try to avoid this topic, but this is the position of their party. And unlike other parties, the Greens do not have a conscious vote on this topic. So being a member of the Greens means that you must agree to this policy on late-term abortion. And when I say late-term, I mean as late as it could possibly be. And I know for a fact that there are church-going Christians who vote for the Greens because they are environmental enthusiasts. And we should all be environmental enthusiasts. We love our nature. And this is not a knock on the people of which I'm referring to. It is simply drawing an example of the absence of knowledge out there in the voting community that people have of this dangerous, anti-human political organisation that unfortunately is occupying at least 10% of the vote in our country, a percentage that we intend on reducing with courage and bravery, and most importantly, putting our boots on the ground. The Greens sympathise with terrorists. I believe this. I believe the Greens are very much in support of radical Islamic terror organisations to the likes of Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. And this is clearly expressed. This is clearly expressed in their language, how they carry out their behaviour in Parliament, and the actions of which they exhibit at protests. They advocate alienation from our allies. That's right. The leader of the Greens, Adam Bant, denigrating the leader of the free world, President Trump, advocating for Australia to move away from the United States. A policy that, if put into place, would disrupt the order of life as we know it, sending shockwaves through our economy, our military alliances, our security pacts, a reckless position that would put at absolute risk Australia's security standing in the world. And perhaps most importantly, they disrespect our flag and our culture. They disrespect the service of those who came before us, those who built this country. They show no gratitude whatsoever for those who contributed to making our country what it is. And that to me is reprehensible, and we need to come together in celebration and appreciation for our incredible country. And those who undermine our country, I say, are simply an enemy to this country, and that's why I'm standing here running this campaign. Okay, so that being said, we're all here because we realise there's a problem. We don't like the Greens. We'd like to avoid a Labor-Greens minority government. We don't want them to win seats. So the question is, what can you do about it? Well, you can do a lot. And there's enough people in this room right here, right now, to make an impact. And we've held other events and lots of people have signed up online. So what I did was made a decision to team up with an organisation called Advance. Have we heard of Advance? Yeah. Okay, great. Now, Advance, running this tremendous campaign, Greens Truth, the objective in very simple terms is to roster on courageous volunteers to the polling booths in Greens heavy electorates for the objective of handing out materials to voters with the objective of influencing the public to put the Greens last where they belong. Okay, So to that end, I put my hand up and I said, hey, this is great. Let me be involved in this. And the three electorates that are being targeted are Macnamara, Wills, and Melbourne. Okay, so Macnamara is quite under control. There's some great local groups handling Macnamara. But what I am seeking are volunteers for Melbourne and Wills. Wills is on a knife's edge. The candidate for Wills is a member of the Victorian Upper House by the name of Samantha Ratnam. You may remember her from the COVID days. Yep, Harrison definitely remembers. Wills is definitely under a very real risk of flipping to the Greens. The seat of Melbourne, unfortunately, we have Adam Band just cruising on 60% of the vote. So these types of figures tend to dissuade the general public from standing up and attempting to do something about it. Okay, but the fact of the matter is, and this may sound cliche, but the longest journey starts with a single step. And the actions we take today may not result in benefit for us in this room today, but may result in benefit as soon as the next election cycle and the next election cycle after that. To undo the mess that has permeated throughout this country, it is going to take time because the mess did not appear overnight. This has been a very gradual, a very insidious process that has occurred year in, year out. So the way that this works is boots on the ground at the polling booths. You will be given a t-shirt, you will be given information in your hand. The goal is to get this information to the electors that are heading into the polling booths. It is really simple, and doing so we can influence the outcome of this election in ways that are beneficial to our country and the interests of our nation. All right, so I'm just going to talk about some polling tips, and this is just really kind of black and white. What do you do at a polling booth? The goal's really simple. You stand out the front of a polling booth in a t-shirt, you've got your materials, your goal is to get those materials into the hands of people walking in. You've only got a few seconds, say something catchy, the Greens aren't who they used to be, the Greens want to give your inheritance to the government, make a decision based on the type of person in front of you, and that's really all there is to it. The left have all types of tactics up their sleeve. They'll try and stand in front of you. They may send people to talk your ear off. One of the strategies from the Labor and Greens and Socialist handbook is to actually send elderly women to pretend that they're confused in order to distract volunteers at the polling booths. And this is a strategy to obviously take up the volunteers' time as to not be effective in disseminating the information to the electors. So this is critically important. Now, you might be already signed up to volunteer with another political party, and that's fine. But what we need are the most traffic-heavy polling booths throughout the electorates to be covered. Okay, so even if you can only volunteer a few hours on election day, or a few hours here and there throughout pre-poll, every single minute you spend on one of these polling booths is contributing to a cause that is so valuable, so valuable. You need to keep in mind that in the instance of a Labor-Greens minority government, the Greens, for all of their horrible flaws and their anti-Australian positions and their anti-human positions, will have the extraordinary power and capability to sign off on every bill introduced by Labor in such an instance. Given the agenda of this party, imagine what every bill would look like if the Greens had the final say. So although the Greens would make up the minority in a minority government, their influence would be a lot bigger than that. Common term is the tail wagging the dog, because no laws will pass without the express approval of the Greens, and that is why it is critically important that we get out there and we educate the voting public on why they must put the Greens last, why the Greens are not who they say they are, the fact that the Greens have changed, and we can capture those casual Greens voters if we're smart and strategic, and we have all the resources at our disposal. We've got t-shirts, we've got the literature, the how to vote cards, the staff on the ground, the rostering system, the supply chain is sorted. So, and insurance. Advance also has insurance. So God forbid you're volunteering and you get hit by a car or something, which I hope that nobody does, but sometimes it happens at polling booths. You will be covered. So you have nothing to worry about, nothing to lose, everything to gain. And what do you have to gain? The dignity of our nation. So we have a clipboard, and I would like everybody to sign up their name, mobile number and address before leaving. You'll receive a phone call, and on that phone call you'll be asked, when are you free? When can you get to a booth? And you'll never be on your own, by the way. You'll always be paired up with someone, and there'll always be someone on the other line to help. And together we can stop the Greens. Thank you. And I also just wanted to point out that for polling and election day, if you're struggling with transport, Advance has offered to cover transport costs for dedicated volunteers that want to be there, covering the cost of taxis, Ubers, and associated travel costs, because this is how important it is to get people on these booths. When you are all contacted for your availability and rostering, pre-poll and election day will be put forward. And yes, you are correct, pre-poll is critically important. You know, all the slots are divided down into 2-hour segments. So a few hours here, a few hours there really helps. But of course, the more you can do, the more that we can do collectively, the better the result will be. These 3 electorates are so important. We need boots on the ground. We need to cast this disgusting, subversive political organisation back to the corner where they belong. All right, night over. Feel free to mingle, sign up, meet people, shake hands, and let's take down the Greens. Thank you.